Welcome back to another episode of Books, Bullets, and Babies. I am your host, Dr. Sagashus, and I am very excited about today's topic. Today, we're going to be looking at the convergence between entrepreneurship and wealth. And I am very, very excited that we will be having a special guest, Nyra Jordan. Before we introduce Nyra, I want to take this opportunity to also thank our sponsors. This episode has been made possible by American Families Institute for Corporate and Social Impact. And I also like to send a shout out to B Brown Productions for making it possible to be in Atlanta right now while we shoot this entire podcast series. With that said, let's turn our attention over. I was very excited about being able to introduce Nyra. And I know I should wait to say this, but one of the reasons why I was very excited about this introduction, I was excited because I'm able to say that she was featured in Forbes magazine in 2021, February 2021. And I'm very excited about that. I'm excited about that in part because how many times in your life will you be able to touch someone and be able to call them by name and be able to say, I've actually seen this person live and breathe in my face. And then also say in that same sentence, and they were in Forbes magazine. I get to say that. Can you say that? So I am very proud. The other thing I'm proud about is just her overall, her bio. So Nyra has been with American Family Insurance for over 20 years, serving in various leadership roles throughout the organization. More recently, she led a team responsible for American Family's corporate social responsibility program. Nyra is a social impact investment director at the American Family Institute for Corporate and Social Impact, where she is advancing the creation of economic opportunities for historically overlooked communities, including those impacted by incarceration, through venture capital investment. Nyra holds an undergraduate degree in mass communication from UW-Madison and has a master's in criminal justice administration. She also has a master's in social work innovation and sustainability leadership from Edgewood College. I am very excited to introduce Nyra. Nyra, welcome to Books, Bullets, and Babies.
Thank you so much for having me. I am excited and have been looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you. All right, so my first question, we're going to just jump right in. Nyra, what exactly do you do? And can you explain to us what a typical week in the office looks like for you?
So I think you probably been talking to my mom because she always asks me that question too. Like, what do? You work for an insurance company, first of all. Can you help me with some policies? So absolutely. I actually work for, as you said, the American Family Insurance Institute for Corporate and Social Impact. And we call it the Institute because the name is so long. But the Institute really is the extension of American Family's corporate responsibility strategy. And at the Institute, we believe that, there's this intersection of proximity and innovation that is untapped within communities across the country. And so our mission is to close equity gaps. Mm-hmm. And so to provide access to opportunity and capital for underserved founders, as well as community partners that are doing incredible work towards some of the social causes that we believe that are important. Equity gaps in education, healthy youth development, climate and community resilience, and then economic empowerment and justice reform, which is the area I oversee. And so in my work, I really get to connect with high impact, enterprising startups and founders that are solving issues within fintech, within justice tech, within climate and community resiliency. But then I also get to work within communities that have nonprofits and academic institutions and community members that have ideas and solutions to problems that they are incredibly familiar with. And so I look to provide ways to provide resources, support to amplify all of that work, to get capital to entrepreneurs and to get capital in communities that really know how to leverage those resources. So that's really what I do. I get to amplify the work that so many incredible people are doing.
So when you think about the founders of companies that you have encountered, how often do you encounter founders of companies who are mothers? And how are those women caring for children? How are those women who are caring for children outside of I'm sorry. How often are those women caring for children outside of conventional ideas of or circumstances around mothering? Right. So, in other words, the short version of that question is how often do you encounter founders who are mothers, and how often are you encountering mothers who are mothering their children outside of conventional ideas of mothering practices?
Yeah, all the time. I mean,
Really?
we are a social impact firm, so we're looking for, as I said, solutions to those issues I talked about. And I encounter so our entrepreneurs oftentimes at really early stages, they still have ideas that we connect them to accelerators so that they can expand on those ideas. They have early business ideas, and we want to make those connections and give them the runway they need to experiment and pivot and try. And so many of these entrepreneurs and change makers are mothers. I've been on calls with moms with babies in their arms, especially in this environment of Zoom. They have toddlers sitting on their lap, and they got their pitch deck, and they're going through their proposal, and the baby's sitting there right there with them, like they've heard the full proposal before, and it's calming. I was actually in a mentoring session with a early stage founder, young African American mother, who literally took the meeting sitting on a blanket on her floor because she had just put her, I believe it was a 4-month-old baby down for a nap. So through our conversation, she's rubbing the back, soothing the baby to sleep, rubbing her back, talking about her business idea.
Yes.
And so we encounter mothers all the time, and mothers that are in unconventional situations. And for us, it's about the business idea. It's about the impact that you're going to make. And so I really believe when you're looking at, especially startup founders that may be looking for investors, people that are really sincere and authentic about social impact, the background doesn't matter. We're looking for the idea and whether or not we believe that that founder can make that idea and that business a reality. And so it is not it's not unusual at all.
That's actually really good to hear. Okay. So, I mean, we know it. We know it in the numbers. We know it in the women we encounter. We know it in the research. But to hear someone else say, yes, to affirm and to mirror what we know, that I think it's affirming for me, and I think it's affirming for our listeners as well. So thank you for that.
And I will say, I think the reality of it is, though, that there needs to be a changing understanding, right, of where innovation exists, where business ideas come from. And so there is work to be done to get these infamous mothers in front of investors. So I also don't want to paint too rosy a picture, because I also get that could be comfortable for mothers, particularly mothers that look like us, to show up in that way, because I believe there's a shared experience and there's a comfort in that. I think part of what I challenge myself to do, because I recognize I am in places and at tables that others are not, is to make that normal, is to share those stories and to have conversations with folks that may not have the connection to our culture and our experiences and the understanding of that, to have those discussions and then to say, and this is a really, badass founder who has this kick-ass business idea. And so I feel like that's a responsibility that I feel like I carry doing the work that I do.
So,
can you curse? I'm sorry, I said it.
Oh, no. I was wondering if you could curse. Yeah. So no, we're fine. When you do experience companies founded by mothers who defy odds, what do their defiance usually look like? What do their companies look like? And how do those companies matter? So what does defiance look like for you and your experience with these moms who are entrepreneurs? That's the first part of the question.
I think that's such a great question, because I think, so there's a saying that talks about sometimes courage is is going quietly into your room and saying, I'll try again tomorrow. So defiance isn't always loud, right? So I think defiance, when I see it, is being in the game, like confidence that I belong here because I have an idea, and it's launching companies that can't be ignored. And so being authentically who you are, I think all of that is defiance. There's an incredible company called Goal Setter. It's a platform that teaches kids financial literacy and economic concepts. And I use the app with my daughter because it is founded by a woman of color, an African-American woman named Tanya Van Court. She's currently raising $3.9 million in funding. She's been in Silicon Valley, a place where people say we don't necessarily belong or isn't built for us. She's been there, and she's previously raised $2.1 million. She's a mom. And her goal, because of her experience, is to teach Black children how to build wealth. And so I think these companies matter, because I do think when we think of entrepreneurs, there's so many business ideas. We think about Black women being cosmetologists and hairdressers and maybe even owning restaurants, and all that is amazing, and we love that. But we also get to play in fintech, and we get to, be in these other areas where they're not used to seeing us. And so I think it matters because we do have this lived experience that is important when you think about business ideas. Uber, we were before we started, we were talking about Uber. It was launched because the founder was trying to get a cab for him and a group of his friends. And so that's how he came up with Uber. Ring, the video doorbell came up because somebody wanted to be able to know when their packages were delivered when they were working in their garage. So think about all of the lived experience of mothers and infamous mothers and Black women and Black men. And think about all of the problems and the multitasking that mothers are doing all day long. The mom that's on the call pitching her business idea, she is hardcore multitasking in that moment and balancing. I'm sharing this business idea, I'm also soothing my child. Like all of these things that are, functioning with all sides of your brain. So I think about the problems that mothers are solving that could benefit society. And so I think we need that perspective of diverse voices. And I think that's why it matters, because we can be in those places that are comfortable and people have traditionally seen us, but I think we also need to be in those places that we aren't always seen. And so that I think that defiance and that confidence to say I belong here and I got an idea is something that's important.
Wow. Okay. In discussions about wealth creation, experts often focus on education as a means to closing the pay gap. They focus on home ownership and legacy or inheritance. Yet entrepreneurship has been identified as a pathway to wealth that can be quicker and more impactful than working a traditional job. Do you think entrepreneurship is normalized as a source of wealth generation for non-traditional mothers? Why or why not?
Yeah, I don't know if it's quicker. Entrepreneurship is hard.
Yes, it is.
Me, watching entrepreneurs and seeing the work and the extra time that goes into it, it doesn't happen overnight. But I also think there's a lack of education, I would say, in the Black community around entrepreneurism, what it is, what it means, what it takes to be successful. I think sometimes especially if we have an organization that is solving a social problem, I feel like we naturally turn to nonprofit, because I think that's something that's familiar to us, and the thought of making a profit and that whole idea that you can do good and do well is sometimes that there's a tension between those two things. So I believe the biggest opportunity exists with having conversations like this one. I think having conversations within community, bringing resources into communities and educating on what entrepreneurism can look like. But I think it also is the access to those resources to be successful. And I think part of it also is you think about the historical financial inequities that have existed in the Black community. many of us, I can say this for myself, I don't have a relative that I can say, hey, I want to start this business, give me a friends and family, loan or a grant or whatever. That does not exist in my family. And so I think that's also part of it as well, just that access to capital for people to launch businesses, for people to test and learn ideas. I think all of those things have played a part in why entrepreneurism isn't always talked about in the Black communities. I just think there's just been generations and generations of economic disempowerment that has made that out of reach for so many of us.
So speaking of resources, there's a quote um, from in your 2021, because I'm so excited to be able to say this, in a 2021 article featuring you, there is a quote from you saying, people are saying we don't need any more mentorship, we need capital. Talk to me about this, and what does it mean for entrepreneurs to need capital?
Yes. So, that article is based on, I'll give a little context for those that aren't familiar with it. We recently finished an assessment. So as I said, part of the work that I do is in justice reform. And so part of that is making investments in technology that is founded by or serves individuals and their families that have been impacted by the criminal justice system and have been incarcerated, have been justice involved. And justice tech is an emerging area of investment that really, and from my perspective, should, if done right, center those individuals that have been impacted. And so that report really looks at how we consider justice tech and all the different sectors that kind of intersect with that. Because there's justice tech that intersects with legal tech, and then there's fintech, and there's healthcare and technology. So there's all these different intersections. So that's really the gist of that market assessment that we did. American Family Insurance Institute did in collaboration with Village Capital, which is also a social impact investment firm. And so we brought together an advisory board of about 20 plus people that have been impacted by the justice system, justice founders, advocates, entrepreneurs, to say, what are you seeing within this landscape of justice tech? And the founders are founders of color. And what we're finding is, and we see this within VC, when you consider the lack of VC funding, only 2.2% of venture capital funding goes to women. You look at women of color, it's 0.2%. And so we know that these investments are smaller. And so part of the issue is that what these entrepreneurs are experiencing is that they meet an investor, and the investor will say, I can't invest in you, but how about I mentor you? How about I provide advice and coaching? And, at some point it becomes, I need to scale and grow my company.
Yes.
And its capital. And what we do know is that Black and Brown founders over-index in mentors, have an abundance of mentors. There's no shortage of mentors that are available for them. It's the capital that they need to grow their business. And so that is what that quote means. Like, we are mentored out. We have been mentored. And now there's time for you to recognize the potential, because venture capital is a risk. None of it is certain. All of it is you're taking a risk. And they're saying, take a risk on me. And when I think the key that's so important too, especially when you're investing in early stage, oftentimes there isn't a lot of customer traction. So you really are in revenue that you can say, oh, I've seen this growth over this period of time. You're investing in that founder and in that team, and your belief that they can make make the vision of this company come true. And so to me, it's saying a lot. Yes. When you are saying, I believe in you as a founder and your lived experience. I believe in your ability to grow this team and to make this company be everything that you envision it to be. And so that's why I feel like that is an incredible, powerful statement, because we need money, companies need money to grow, but it also says, I believe in you. And so when you think about Black and brown founders who are consistently saying, people aren't telling me they believe in me, they'll keep coaching me, they'll keep giving me their time, but in this game that we're playing, we need capital. And I think that's why that's important. Wow. And I can't remember if I answered all your questions.
No, you answered it. Yes, you did. Well, then this leads me to the main question of this whole entire podcast series. From your experience, from where you're standing, from the bird's eye view that you have, and I say bird's eye because as entrepreneurs, I think many times the women who are in this audience are seeing the trees, and they're not in a position to always see the forest because they're on their day-to-day grind. You have a larger view because you see a lot of entrepreneurs and you work with a lot of people, and you travel, and you all are creating reports, and you have data. From what you see, do you think that the women we're calling infamous mothers can become millionaires in the society? And please explain your answer.
I love this question, because yes, 100%, absolutely, they can become millionaires. And I don't say that because I feel like I need to say that because the audience is sitting here, and that's who we're talking to. But absolutely, typically the biggest difference between infamous mothers and what society thinks of when they think about entrepreneurs, white males, Silicon Valley, again, is, I think, access and opportunity. Mm-hmm. And it goes back to the fact that, the generations of inequalities, but, it's the representation that often exists when you think about investors, which is why we think that proximity is so important, because investors invest in people that look like them. Mm-hmm. So when you see that 71% of venture capital firms don't have a female partner and 98% don't have partners of color, you start to see why the stats look the way that they look, and why, if I'm a founder, an entrepreneur, and I'm not getting capital, why I start to question whether or not I can be successful in this business and in this game. So this is not an issue, I think, of infamous mothers not having innovative ideas or not having scalable, high impact, sustainable businesses, or the capacity or capability of being entrepreneurs. This is about changing the narrative of entrepreneurism and what entrepreneurs look like and what their experiences are, and for investors to look beyond what they know and seek innovation, what I call beyond the coast. Mm-hmm. Get out of, get off the East Coast, get off the West Coast, and come look at the rest of the country. Mm-hmm. And there are, in my opinion, I feel like money being left on the table, because there are entrepreneurs that they have not even, that they haven't even found, that they haven't even had access to. Angela Denton is another Black woman, single mother, had her first child at 16, founded New Me Accelerator, raised $40 million in venture capital, and was ultimately, New Me was acquired. So the examples of women that, are in this game, don't get me talking about Arlen Hamilton, who's my personal hero, who, raised a backstage venture capital fund, homeless. Yeah. It's out there. And so, yes, I believe, again, I think it's having access. I feel very strongly about that it's having access to the resources and the opportunities. And to get that access, you have to be seen. And so I feel, again, like part of my role is to be like, here they are, here she is, make sure that I, in as much that I can, and shine that light and strongly encourage, which is the point of that article in Forbes, was to shine a light on Justice Tech, shine a light on Black and brown and BIPOC founders, and say, they're here. You just need to turn around and take a look. And you can have financial return, you can make social impact, and you can make some very successful entrepreneurs by doing that.
It's interesting to me because I think what you said earlier was 2% of women receive, what did you say? 2% of women receive venture capital
Yes.
funding?
Yeah, 2.2% of VC funding goes to
2.2%
women.
of VC funding goes to women. What's interesting is in a book that we've read recently, Everyone Should Be Millionaires, Rachel Rogers say 2% of all millionaires are women. So I'm wondering if there's a correlation between people who become who reach millionaire status and people who reach actual who receive venture capital funding, or people who people founders who folks are finding that it's necessary to take a risk for, right, or or invest in. Is there a direct correlation? I wonder if those two numbers are related, or is it just coincidence? But I probably not.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. To ponder, like what is going on with the women that do receive that funding, and how many of those billionaires, is it family, is it self-made, like what came into play in terms of them being able to reach that billionaire status. I think that's a great question to ponder. That's like a
Yes.
thesis paper.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Wow. Okay. So I'm going to roll this die. And this die is going to either land on books, bullets, and babies when you tell me to let it go. And then we're going to pull a card from this card deck. And you know that this card deck is about some taboo subjects, or subjects that are kind of, that we associate with institutions, but we don't often have them at they're not humanized. They're institutional. They're sterile. So we're talking about money, wealth, entrepreneurship. And then there are subjects like mothering that's sensitive. And then there are subjects that are taboo, like pleasure. And we're defining pleasure in this context as ease, comfort, satisfaction. And then there are subjects like health and wellness. So you get that bullet deck. You won't get anything because that's a wild card deck. But if you get books and babies, you know what to expect. So here we go. Let me know when you want me to release this die.
Okay,
Go.
go ahead, release it.
Oh man, you got babies. Whew. Let's see.
I'm nervous.
Okay. How are you the hero in your children's story?
Oh, what a beautiful question. How are you the hero in your children's story? I think, that's an incredibly beautiful question. I think I have I have allowed them to be, and tell me if this isn't the type of answer, but this is the first thing that pops into mind. I think I've allowed them to be who they are.
Hmm.
I had a lot of rules, being the youngest, and it's 3 boys, 3 girls. I'm the baby, and my mother kind of saw what my older siblings were up to,
Yes.
and so I was like, lockdown. I couldn't do anything. And there was just, I think, of so many of the rules and beliefs that as a young girl, African American girl, growing up with, that just put so many restrictions on us. Be a lady, don't wear this. Like, I couldn't wear anklets because that was apparently like a symbol of something. I don't know, but these made up rules that somebody decided it meant something about you, of something about your character, who you were. And I feel like I released that for my children, and let them kind of, I think, be who they are, and also express that. And if they disagreed, we were able, like, if I disagree with something my mother said, it was kind of like, you were very careful on how I'm saying that. And so I felt like we were able to have respectful disagreements, and really conversations about why certain things were. So I'm hoping that, I think they would say, I have modeled the way for them to be authentically who they are.
You've answered that question beautifully, because these questions are never about the children. These questions and everything we do with Infamous Mothers is about centering the mother. And so this question was more for you than it was for them, right?
So you did trickery.
Yeah.
But that is such an incredibly beautiful question, because I think we so many times think about like what legacy am I leaving for my children. I even said, like, during COVID, like, we're all working remote, like my husband and I have talked about, like, our kids, they see us working, they see what we do, we hope we're modeling good behavior.
Yes.
And so there's just all these things we think about as parents, and whether kids are paying attention or whether they're not paying attention. But I hope that, and I tend to be more introverted and I grew up not always expressing things and saying what I felt. So I'm hoping that they have that. So I appreciate you kind of saying that, kind of that purpose, because I've never thought about it that way before.
Thank you. And so while we get to be the good guys in this question for you, somebody's going to pull the card that says, and how are you the villain in your children's story? And I don't know what they're going to say at that time.
That's a good question too.
Yeah.
I think I'm the tougher parent. Maybe I'm the tougher. I don't know.
Yeah, I think about this, because I think a lot of times we come up with a lot of our insecurities or certain things, but for me, when I think about how I'm the villain in my children's story, being a protector was very important to me, and so my children couldn't go out past a certain time. They couldn't travel a certain distance. A lot of things my children just couldn't do that the other kids were able to do. But I had to corral so many people, and the stakes were so high for us, and I didn't have a backup in case something went wrong. So in case someone needed to be picked up in an emergency, we didn't have that. And so I needed to be, you need to be as far as I can reach you. And if you're further than my reach, you can't go. And so my daughter, I remember her making fun, this girl making fun of her at West at high school. And like, your mom don't let you go anywhere. And my daughter was like, I'm sorry your mom let you smoke meth in her living room and allowed you to do. Like, she had this very sarcastic answer, which was really good for me, because what she was saying is, I'm sorry you don't have a mom who's very big on trying to protect you. Now, I know that she didn't always look at it as protection, right? I know that she saw me as being strict and she saw me as being rough. But for her in that moment to have to produce that response, that was a big deal for me. And I think in some ways my heroism would look like yours, in a sense that while I did keep a tighter grip. Now that my bigger kids are older, I can expand a bit, because now they can drive, they can pick folks up. So I have we can expand a little bit for the younger ones. So my situation was the opposite with yours. But I think where I might be the hero in some of their stories is just what you said. I let them be who they are. That is, and I think part of the reason why I'm able to do that is because I've been able to live the life that I want on my terms, so I don't have a need to live through them.
Yes.
So
yes.
This, I'm thinking, I went there because I'm like, oh, Jesus, somebody's going to say, villain, really, Sagashus, you want me to answer this question? So I needed to figure out, like, how can this play out in their story?
But I love how you said that, though, because that villain, because I even as I'm thinking about my own situation of not being able to go to parties, not do those things, I probably would. I mean, I would have probably seen, and I did. Like, we joke about it now, because I'm like, I can think of situations that, looking back, it's like, it's a good thing my mother was doing. Like, I can see moments where if she'd have given me an inch, I probably would have taken a mile, right? So looking back, reflecting, can totally appreciate that. But in the moment, absolutely, it was why do I have to pay for the wrongs of the 5 previous folks before me?
Well, I can tell you right now, Nyra Jordan, you are apparently the hero for so many people in business, people who are often overlooked. And I can tell you that you're my personal hero, because when I I've read that article in Forbes so many times. Your picture, the everything about that is so inspiring for me as a Black woman, as a mom, to be able to say, no, I've had conversations with this woman and she's in Forbes. That's a big deal. So I can tell you that you are one of my heroes. And I know people love Michelle Obama and I know people love Oprah. I get that. I get that. I appreciate that. And I have a lot of admiration and appreciation for them too. But I can tell you in the city of Madison, my Michelle and my Oprahs are you and Alex Shade. And it's because of the way that you all lead. It's not even because of what you do. It's because of the way that you lead, because of the ways that you all create space, because of the story you just told about the woman and her baby while she's with her pitch deck, right? Because of the ways in which you all enter into spaces and you fight on behalf of people that are often forgotten about. And so, again, while I can love and appreciate Oprah and Michelle Obama, I have in my mind my own versions of them because those are the ones that when I see the work that they do, I can see pathways being created for women like me. So thank you for being the hero of my story, and thank you for all that you do.
Thank you for saying that. And I just have to say, and you and I have talked about this the first time we met, I think there was just a connection and a kindred spirit. And I think after the meeting, we even hugged. I felt like I've known this person. I feel like we've met in another life or we've had this connection. So I appreciate you saying that because I am an admirer of yours and all that you've done. And I feel like our paths keep crossing in these amazing ways. I don't see that ending anytime soon. So thank you for all that you're doing and for having me here.
Thank you. And clearly we are kindred spirits because how do we have three of the exact same colors on today and we did not plan this?
Did not plan it. And I've changed clothes, I was going to say, like changed blazers like 4 times. So to end, clearly it was meant to be.
Yes. Yes, it was. And to be fair, I've changed about 4 times today. So and we landed on this. So thank you.
Like,
yes.
Let me sync them together.
Thank you. And your answers are so beautiful today. Thank you, Nyra. You are the note we get to end on today. So you're also my favorite because now we get to go on break for 3 hours and then we're back at it for 3 more. Jeez.
Congratulations on all of this. Congratulations to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I thank the Institute.
Absolutely.
Wow. Thank you, Nyra Jordan, for bringing such an awesome perspective and dimension to the conversation about entrepreneurship and wealth for the women we call infamous mothers. One piece that I particularly appreciate is we were having a discussion about women who are often single moms or women who are in recovery, women who were formerly incarcerated. What I appreciate about that conversation is we are looking at women who are single moms, or we are looking at women who are in recovery, or women who were formerly incarcerated, or women who are recently divorced, or women who are teen moms at some point. And we're putting them in the same room and having conversations with venture capitalists. If that's not a game changer, I don't know what is. And so thank you, Nyra, for being able to bring that perspective to the conversation. Thank you for being able to give us kind of this bird's eye view of what's happening in the world of entrepreneurs. And thank you for bringing, for expanding the conversations in the boardrooms and the places where you go to talk about the work that so many entrepreneurs are doing. And that's it. I am in awe of the conversation that we've had, and I am very excited to see where it takes us. I'm very excited for the audience. With that said, you all, we're closing out another episode of Books, Bullets, and Babies. I am your host, Dr. Sagashus, and I will see you next week. All right, you all, it's time for a disrespectful tidbit. And why do we call it disrespectful? We call it disrespectful because these are facts that some folks would prefer we not share. Today's tidbit focuses on Madam C.J. Walker. Madam C.J. Walker is often referred to as the first Black woman millionaire. But did you know, in the Guinness Book of World Records, she is recorded as the first woman to earn a personal fortune of more than $1 million. Also, did you know that she was not only a teen mom, birthing her daughter by the age of 17. By the time she was 20, she was widowed, making her a single mom. This means that the first recorded woman millionaire was a teen mom as well as a single mom. That's a tidbit you need to know.